Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Hey, welcome to our live Texans-49ers postgame show. Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network, presented by FanDuel. And joining me, as usual, to break this down, contributor and Bullpen podcast co-host Tom Chavarria. You see him on the right. Lost him for a second, but hopefully he'll be back soon. Houston radio legend Jayson Braddock. And hey, you YouTube live viewers, you are a part of the conversation. So hit us with your questions and your comments. And Tom, look, the Texans had 6 scoring drives with at least 9 plays. It's their most in history. After the Seattle game, CJ said their offense is supposed to be death by 1,000 cuts. Stroud followed it up by saying, you live by the sword and die by the sword because you don't take shots down the field. So he didn't seem like all in on this, but Tom, he's proven that this can work in 3 of the last 4 games.
Absolutely. I really feel like this is something that it's been building, right? We've seen this offense start from something that we didn't think could score any points to when it's right, you can see the vision. You can absolutely see the Nick Caley dream and how they meticulate the ball down the field. There was a lot of really good, impressive stuff that happened today that I'm sure we're going to break down.
Jayson, what do you think?
No, absolutely. I think y'all hitting the nail on the head there. 100% when Tom says when they're right, basically paraphrasing here, but they're right. And so I think that's great to see. And we can talk about all the different other angles to it, how much of this is sustainable from week to week. But I think the great thing is to see the blueprint of it, and that if you can continue to play like this, it shows you what type of success can be had.
Brian says, hot take, is the offense better without Nico Collins? Yeah, you got to say it. Let's get Nico out of here. I want him traded. He's a cancer. He's an anchor. Let's move him. A couple of important notes in this one. Stroud not sacked for the first time in a regular season game since the Falcons 2 years ago. Number 2, as we record this, the Texans are 9th in point differential, not in the AFC, in the NFL. The Rams, Seahawks, Broncos, just ahead of them. Teams on the schedule, of course, 1 through 5, Colts, Patriots, Lions, Chiefs, and Bills. So they're in great company with that. Number 3, in 3 of the last 4 games, the Texans' run game is averaging 151 yards. And I'm coming back to that one a little bit later. But let's run through key moments in this one. Texans' first possession, 3 quick first downs, Noel and Berrios. And then Berrios, again, fantastic broken tackle on 3rd and 11. 5 catches after being invisible last week. On 4th and 1, somebody reminded Caley QB sneaks are allowed. And when you know it, it worked. But on 3rd and 1, Chubb stuffed. Texans settle for a field goal. They overcame 2 penalties, Tom. What stuck out for you in that opening drive?
For me, you spoke to it right away. I think Braxton Berrios looked like the guy that we saw in camp. This was a guy that I think had a lot of people excited for Braxton Berrios being that slot guy that could, help alleviate some of the pressure for CJ, have that safety valve thing for him. And you saw right away that, with a couple weeks under his belt, he reverted back to a dude that I think could really help this team. Right now, the injuries are concerned in the wide receiver room. So Braxton Berrios looks like a guy they're gonna need to lean on. And as far as like the QB sneak and things of that nature, I think we've been begging for that. I think we'll have to discuss whether or not this is a CJ thing or a Texan thing, whether or not the QB sneak is really like something he doesn't want to do. But on this drive, you had to like go, hey, it works, just like you spoke to.
After a Will Anderson pressure forces a couple of incompletions, Texans get the ball back. Then what I've been waiting for since he was drafted, Jayson, I'm going to get you with this one in a second. Woody Marks, 50 yards on a screen pass. CJ gets his second quarterback sneak for a first down. Hey, looky here. You can do it twice in a row. Wow. But unfortunately, he makes maybe his worst throw of the day, missing an open Higgins on the sideline out. They settle for 3. But Jayson, I saw you love the Mark screen. You broke it down a little bit on your X post.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you watch CJ, he's sitting there and like let's pull back the curtain a little bit. 49ers are banged up. No Fred Warner, no Nick Bosa, no Bryce Huff. I mean, you've got three of their starting defensive ends out. So they had to manufacture a pass rush in this game. So they're having the blitz. When they bring four, CJ could pitch a 10 out there, camp out, make some s'mores if you're looking for it. I mean, whatever you wanted, he had that much time, so they had the blitz on that play. If I'm not mistaken, I think they brought six. CJ's looking for the deep route. Higgins and Jalen Noel are getting ready to cross each other. There's a little bit of collision there. He comes off of it as one of the linebackers because they sold play action on that play, if I'm thinking about the right one. All three linebackers bite up. The one on the outside to CJ's right decides to pass rush because he's so far up. Jake Andrews gets just enough to chip him, and CJ sidesteps a little bit, pivots to Woody Marks, hits Marks in the open field, like you said, takes it for 50 yards. I say the last 10 to 15 yards of that is Xavier Hutchinson just hustling over to make a block. He walls off, and Woody goes right behind him, get an extra 10 to 15 yards. So just great play all around from the entire Texans team.
Fantastic game from the Iowa State Cyclones. I think we win the Big 12 today for sure with the type of performance we saw from those guys. And by the way, Jayson mentions, hey, there's injuries with the 49ers. There's injuries with the Ravens. There's injuries with this team and that team, and the Texans are supposed to win and blah, 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 blah. No, I've been told by Astros fans, if your entire team gets wiped out, you're still supposed to win the World Series. You can't actually lose your division by one game and still be considered a good franchise. Fire the GM, fire the head coach, get Kyle Shanahan. He doesn't know what he's doing. He can't win without the whole team playing out. Whatever. Anyway, Texans forced a 3-and-out. They got the big 45-yard pass to Knoll. Again, like the short yardage QB sneak. If you run play action, it actually works. Where was this against Seattle? Maybe Kaylee learned from Gary Kubiak's son how you stick to the basics, you stick to your game plan. Again, I'm going to come back to that. So after a Berrios first down catch, Stroud to Higgins for 6. And Tom, if you were in a coma Monday, you'd think this offense was 100% rolling in the last month. They've scored in 16 of the last 17 Stroud possessions if you kind of mentally erase the Seahawks game.
Yeah, I mean, credit to CJ. I think he really talked during the week about working on his footwork, working on the details, and you saw it. A couple throws sailed on him a little bit, and I think if you asked him to be honest, he would tell you, those are throws he got to make. But overall, he really put the ball where only his guys could get it. I thought he did a really good job today of really trying to take what the defense gave him. This is something we've been begging for so long from CJ. It doesn't have to be an explosive every play. You can take the little stuff, and we saw it today, and it just made everything easier for him. And I think that's the death by 1,000 cut thing. I think that's where that's kind of going to, and I think he loves the explosive. Don't get me wrong, and we all do. Those are the things that make SportsCenter. But to get to that, he's got to do all the little things right. We're starting to see it, and it's really exciting because at this point, if your offense is able to execute at that level, I mean, we gush about this defense already, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, Jayson, it seems like he's quick to tell us, hey, I listened to Tom Brady. I've been talking to Tom Brady. Did you watch him for 20 years? That was Tom Brady, death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, and I think he did well there. And again, I mentioned how the 49ers do have those injuries. They don't have the pass rush. Saying that, though, I don't want to gloss over how great C.J. Stroud was today. And it wasn't all solely due to that. Obviously, that factors into it. But towards after, the Seahawks game started with C.J. Stroud doing something he's done, especially early in the season, dropping back outside of the hoop, manifesting extra pressure when it doesn't need to be there. Later in that game, he got away from that, started stepping up in the pocket, and good things happened. This game, all he did all game long was step up in the pocket. He stood tall. People are acting like no pressure came. No, they were blitzing a lot. And when the blitz leaked through there, he stood tall, made either switch the progression or made the move or sidestepped it, and was willing willing to take the hit. I mean, you have to give C.J. Stroud credit for this game, and I think it's fair. Like I've already mentioned about the injury, I think it's fair to mention that, but I don't think there's a gray area. You can't go all the way to the left or all the way to the right. Like most things in life, in the middle is usually the truth. And with that, C.J. Stroud played great, and the 49ers didn't have a pass rush with their front four. Both things are true. But they blitzed a lot as well.
Jayson, you're wrong. All I do is listen to national guys. National guys tell me that this is all the offensive line's fault. C.J. Stroud is the greatest quarterback, and if you just gave him some real guys around him, then this guy's a Hall of Famer, first ballot, whatever. So of course you're wrong on that, and of course I'm being sarcastic.
Robert, I know you. I know you're going tongue in cheek there, but to that point, like what Tom was saying in the first segment, this does show you when everything is perfect and when everything's right, Stroud is elite. But the problem with that, and everybody pointing to that, is that what NFL quarterback isn't elite when everything is right in the pockets. These are millionaires getting paid to play a kid's game. So most quarterbacks will look extraordinary when everything's right. But everything wasn't perfect today. Everything wasn't always right. And when those things weren't right, C.J. Stroud was. And I think that's the key takeaway from that. And also, they're all human. C.J. Stroud's the same age as my oldest daughter, and I still look at her as a kid. I always keep that in the back of my mind that this guy's in years. He had great success. He's 2.5 seasons into his NFL career. This guy's still getting better. He's still progressing. And I think getting that positive results will do wonders for him, because I do think C.J. Stroud is a guy who wears his emotions on his sleeves. As much as he says he doesn't, when he gets high, he gets high. When he gets low, he gets low. And I think that's something that, you're talking about a kid that's just a couple years out of college that most people deal with, present company included, when I was that age.
Yeah, I'm still getting my head around the fact that if everything was 100% great around him, that Brock Osweiler would be an elite quarterback.
The exception to the rule.
Jalen Petrie, good third down coverage for another Texans 3-and-out on the next possession. Then Hutch makes a hell of a catch after a huge Niners third down holding penalty, helping the Texans out. He follows it up with another first down from Hutch. Stroud, great 13-yard scramble to the 23. This is the stuff that we've been excited about this year when Stroud's incorporated it, those scramble plays. But a Scruggs holding penalty hurts. So, Tom, Jayson, whichever one of you want to take this, but another Fairbairn field goal at 16-0. They had 299 yards, though, in the first half. Are we excited about the yardage or mad about just getting those field goals?
I guess I'll take a swing at it. I gotta believe, like, you can't just score touchdowns every time down. I mean, there are teams that score a ton. There are going to be games where 3 is going to be okay. Not all the time, but the fact that they're manufacturing points, they're these. For me, the thing was the drives. Like, if you would have told me, yeah, they went down real quick and scored 3 points and stalled out, and it was like a 2-minute, and then the defense is right back out. The fact that they're sustaining these long drives, I believe that you're going to start building chemistry with some of these young guys. We talked about Higgins and Hutchinson and Noel making plays for CJ. And I believe some of the timing on those throws are only going to get better as those guys get to play together more. So while we're kind of, like down on the fact that it should be 21, right? And it's not. I'm okay with that. The fact of the matter is they're holding on to the ball. You're going to get into, I guess, some stats later that are going to really point to how well the Texans did controlling the game. And for me, this first half, that's what it spoke to.
I like the point Tom makes as far as the sustained drives there, Rob. But for me, I'm going to go a little different way than you hear, Tom. I do think there is, especially when you have this matchup where you're dominating them in so many different regards, everything's going well, but you still have in the back of your mind, Robert touched on the penalties early, 8 penalties in this game. It's been an issue almost the entirety of the season, even right out the gate. And also, I mean, this is kind of mind blowing to me. When I went back and looked at the stats at the end of the game, we all know how much the Texans dominated this game. But you know who had more? Who did better in the red zone? The 49ers were 2 for 2 in the red zone and outperformed the Texans, who were 1 and 5. And if you watch that game and then you go look at that stat line, it's kind of mind blowing that the 49ers outperformed the Texans in the red zone 2 out of 2, 100%, with the Texans going 20% in the red zone, 1 out of 5. And if it was a one-off, I wouldn't be as concerned. But with how much the Texans dominated this game, and that's still an area of struggle, it does give me pause for concern.
Yeah, if they just keep doing what they're doing, though, you score on pretty much every drive. I think that takes care of that. But, you know, yeah, they're going to have to get better at that. And look, we're just a few games in to the new offense, and it feels like he's finally getting control of that. And here's the other thing. I want to touch the Seattle game in just a second, because there's a lot of stuff about the Seattle game that feels like we got to hit on. But before we move on with this game, just a quick reminder, if you're not watching live, tell me what you think in the YouTube comments. As always, let your friends know about our live post game so we can get some fun back and forth in the comments. Also, we will have a Rockets guest on Tuesday. Tons to talk about with the Rockets so far this season. Another game on Monday to talk about. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube with notifications so you get updates on the live shows and all our content. You also want to subscribe to us with your favorite podcast app.
Robert,
right, Texans,
real quick, let me jump in because I never chime in on the Rockets. Got to give a hat tip to Tom. Correct me if I was wrong, Tom, but I saw a hilarious tweet from Tom. The Spurs writer or somebody for the Spurs was taking a lap about the Rockets being 0-2, and he was talking about Rockets fans saying this and that. And Tom basically, and I'm paraphrasing, Tom, you can probably state it better, but saying if you're doing a lap after 2 games in an 82-game season, and so it was hilarious to me, man. Kudos to you, Tom. I mean, I thought it was a very valid point. And to add to it, that if you're taking a lap 2 games after an 82-game season, to me, that's an insecurity that you don't think is sustainable. And so you say it now.
Yeah, I don't know what the goal was there. I knew there was some, and this stems off of, I think Bleacher Report or one of those guys put out, where they thought everybody was going to finish. And there was a lot of discourse because the Spurs were picked to finish ahead of the Rockets. So there was push back and forth. So this guy was banging the drum for that. Like, oh no, the Spurs are that good. And then this was the first opportunity for him to go, oh, see, I told you. And I'm like, it's 2 games in, man.
It's 2 games, man. And Robert, to go back into the Texans, that kind of touches on what you're saying, that, the Texans are 7 games, 8 weeks, 7 games into this. And I thought Tom brought up that excellent point last week, to where even I got, a little bit reactionary after the game, was talking about all the issues with Nick Caley and all that. And Tom was like, it's 6 games. First time play call, a new system, O-line coach gets a promotion, all of that. So back to you, Robert, as far as that. But I think it's an excellent point that you bring that point back up as well, is that it's early and there's going to be some bumps in the road as far as the execution of this new offense and the install.
Let's get to the worst minute of the game from the Texans coaching staff and the Texans players. Texans could have gone to halftime with all the momentum, but Frank Ross, special teams, a disaster right here. Gigantic return to midfield, tack on a Dylan Horton face mask. So final minute, Mac Jones throws it to Kittle, triple coverage. Tom, I can't get mad at the defense. Jones and Kittle, both awesome on the throw and the catch. This, to me, is just on the special teams for the breakdown.
It's rare. It's so rare that we're talking about the special teams in a negative light. But lately, between some questionable penalties, because penalties are the bane of our existence, and just Kaimi not doing a really good job kicking the football, the special teams is leaking a little water. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say I believe that, Frank Ross will get them right. I really think Frank Ross does a really good job. But the last couple of weeks, Kaimi, for all the great things he's done, I'm scratching my head going, bro, what are we doing? And then the penalty, you can't have that tacked on. You got to play cleaner football. I know you like to, this is on the coach, and maybe you could go there. But when they panned over to Nico, he was not happy. So I'm sure he's probably looking for answers too.
I want to
Yeah,
touch on Kalen Bullock on that play, Rob. I know you say, you got the triple team and everything else. That shouldn't have been a touchdown. Kalen Bullock should have had a pass breakup on that. He comes in conservative, trying to get the interception. I understand it, but you have to be aware. 3rd and 10, less than 30 seconds till half. You're up, 2 scores. Just poke the ball out there, but he tries to float in there to get a beautiful interception. I understand he's got great ball skills, but there you have to be aware of the situation. You have to attack the ball and poke it out instead of being, kind of more reactive and trying to wait for the ball to float into your hands. So I thought that should have been a pass breakup by Kalen Bullock there.
The only blemish on Stroud's perfect day, terrible decision, 11 seconds left, throws the interception. Niners, Lenore makes it, but what a huge break when he doesn't get down before the clock runs out, or it could have been 3 points right there. What did you think, Jason, though, about the Texans taking that chance from their own 31-yard line?
Yeah, I don't know if they were just like, all right, we got to get some of these points back. We dominated the first half, maybe a little bit of panic, like, hey, we can go hurry up, try to get some points back, score right here. Because I don't think it was as advantageous there. Looking at the throw, when I first watched it, I thought it might have been a miscommunication. Maybe Jalen Noel didn't come out as quick as he did. But on the rewatch, it didn't look like Jalen Noel did wrong there. I think maybe Stroud, just to your point, did sell that ball there. It got away from him. I think being overly aggressive there could have cost him. And to your point, I mean, if he returns it, he could return it 10, 15 yards and still get out of bounds. But he just fully commits to just trying to make a complete run. No clock awareness there from Lenore. And so, and then I think insult to injury is the fact that we're in week 8 and the 49ers haven't had an interception all year. So you're like, at that point, I could definitely see some Texans fans with how much the Texans dominated the first half, how the special teams mistake, the touchdown to Kittle, then the interception there. If he returns that, gets out of bounds, they get a field goal and it's like 16-10. I could definitely see the Texans fans being like, oh, okay, they're about to do what they've done a lot this year and find a way to lose it. I mean, I was kind of sitting there like, well, 49ers keep figuring out a way to win this year. Texans keep trying to figure out a way how to lose those games. And at that moment, that kind of felt like a little uneasy that you could see this going sideways, especially with them getting the ball to start the second half.
Yeah, I would have said the fans might have booed him off the field, but the 49er fans were so much on point they were out and in force and loud. And so that might have just taken over. I wouldn't have heard it because of all the 49er fans cheering. But anyway, the Texans outgained the Niners by 234 yards in the first half, but only led by 9 points. So third quarter, Texans D, the 3-and-out after a Will Anderson pressure on third down, nearly causes a fumble. Texans ball, big first down catch, and rack from Dalton Schultz on 3rd and long. He's making plays. I mean, you can crash on him all you want to, but the kid's making plays this year. 17-yard catch by Jared Wayne. Bruce Wayne, Batman's better brother. First catches of the year for Jared Wayne, 2 catches. And Tom, Stroud hits a perfect cross to Hutch. I mean, what a laser 30-yard touchdown. That was nice.
Those are the dimes. Those are the ones we've been begging for. Those are the ones we've been waiting for. And it was a beautiful ball all the way around. To Jason's point earlier, there was pressure in CJ's face when he made this throw, so it wasn't like he had the cleanest lane to it. And credit on both of those guys for taking a shot. He could have checked it down. He could have tucked it. The Texans could have played conservatively right there, but were willing to force the ball down the field. And real quick, getting back to right before half, I love what they did. I think we've been begging for this team to be aggressive in certain spots like all the good teams do. If that's KC with the ball right there, you think they're not trying to go get 3 points real quick? Abso-freaking-lutely they are. All Brady, you name it, all those guys. 30 seconds before half, 2 timeouts, let me throw something. And the Texans were like, look, we got a dude that's cooking. Let's try to do that. Now, it didn't work out the way we wanted, but
right.
You're gonna take those shots to build on it. I hope they do it again 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, whenever the chance arises, because, hey, we're trying to get to that point where we're a team that we can go get us 3 points if we need to before half because we've been taking the reps at it.
Jace, what did you see on that Hutch slant?
Oh man, Tom hit the nail on the head there. They bring 6 again. They're trying to manifest some pressure there. Andrew lets a guy leak literally within 1 yard or less of CJ Stroud in the throwing lane with his hand up, and Stroud stands tall. Once again, delivers it around the DN, throws with anticipation, hits Hutchinson in the hands in stride. I called it a 10 out of 10 yak throw because, I mean, you allow that guy to just keep running full speed in that type of pressure situation and keep on that straight line without having to decelerate at all. And that's what led to the touchdown. And we talk about the Texans being 1-5 in the red zone. Well, if you're going to struggle there, this is how that positive to the negative to make up for that. You know, this big strike there, and that kind of erases some of those red zone struggles there. So you do have to be able to manifest these type of big plays if you're going to struggle in the red zone and you want to cash into the end zone. So all around 10 out of 10 play, and kudos to Hutchinson, who had a couple stellar plays today.
Yeah, he's a guy, might not separate the best, but man, if the ball is anywhere in the vicinity, he makes the catch. Great hands from Hutch throughout his Texans career so far. Before we roll on, I just want to help you listeners worried about your personal data. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everybody vulnerable. What do data brokers do? Well, your name, contact info, social, home address, all that stuff, even info about your family members could all be compiled by data brokers and sold online. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. As someone with an active online presence, hey, this stuff's important to me. Privacy is big. I've had issues in the past. I know the hassle. Have you been a victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know somebody who has, and Delete Me can help. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private. Sign up for Delete Me, and we got a special discount. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/HIT. Use the promo code HIT at checkout. HIT, like what Jalen Petrie does. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. Deleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, back to the action. 49ers put together their first real drive. They get help from a Will Anderson offsides, the second of the game, team leading 5th penalty of the year for the Texans. But Niners get a short TD catch and the 2-point conversion out of that. The Texans put together another drive, bogged down in the red zone, thanks mostly to a well-designed blitz, in my opinion, pretty well designed by the Niners on second down. Jason, were you okay with that third down play, just kind of playing it safe? Dara Ogunbowale, or I call him David Mulligettis, baby, taking it on 3rd and 17 for the draw.
Well, I mean, as far as me, as far as the play call, I'm okay with it. I'd rather it be Woody Marks. I'm still not. I guess we talk about the red zone. We talk about some other things that going forward, if we look at the concerns coming out of this game, it would still be some personnel decisions. I mean, kudos to everybody, to Jared Wayne and his family, and Stroud coming out saying he got 2 catches. All of that's well and good. I still don't understand how he gets to start in this game. And so, I mean, you've got Nico down, you got Christian Kirk down, Jared Wayne gets to start, Dory's still involved, you still have a rotation at left guard. So, I mean, there's still some concern personnel-wise. So I guess my biggest problem was Dory being the one to catch that instead of Woody Marks. Woody Marks, man, he's got 2 games with 11 carries. Both of those games, he's gone for over 60 yards. Yeah, I know you can say, well, what about the previous week with Seattle? He had 10 carries and he only had 15 yards. Seattle's a different monster. If you didn't see in that game, people watching or listening, Seattle's just a different monster when it comes to stopping the run. They're elite there. So, I mean, I throw that out. But the 2 games with 11 and 17 carries, he's gone over 60 yards, 50-yard catch in this game. He's a playmaker. Woody Marks had 3 to 4 runs in this game where it was all him. It wasn't the play call, wasn't the offensive line, wasn't anybody else except Woody Marks. We'll see some backs in the NFL that they just get better the longer they're in the game, the more they get a feel for it. And Woody Marks looks like he's one of those guys. Get him at least 12 plus 12 plus carries, 3 to 5 receptions. And I mean, giving him to Dari is just a negative move, in my opinion, I guess the way I would say it, because he's not going to give you the type of return Woody Marks can. And if you're sharing the backfield, why isn't Woody Marks in there, for Dari? It's not like he's getting overworked.
Yeah, Jayson, I don't know if you've seen this. I want to say earlier in the season, somebody said Marks was recorded as one of the fastest in miles per hour of any of the running backs in the NFL, like top 10 guy.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, he had the one move where he just dips his shoulder and slides a little bit to create when there's nothing there. Has another move where it's all designed to go inside. He sees the DN on the edge creep a little bit inside, bounces it outside for a big gain. He had another play. I can't remember exactly what happened. It's all muddied up in the middle. He bounces it off to the right. Almost gets about 10 yards there. He's an explosive playmaker that the better he starts to get the feel for the game, what his linemen are doing, the better he plays. And so I just don't understand Dari getting touches in a game when Woody's already in a timeshare with Nick Chubb. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't understand the love affair that Caserio has with him. Dameon Pierce was back this week. I don't get what he's bringing to the equation. I don't know. It's just guys are on the roster that you just wonder, like, what are they here for? What are they doing? What do they bring into the equation? And yeah, the Jared Wayne thing was very strange. My only explanation is maybe, I don't know what you guys think. I just thought, okay, he's more of a wide guy, and they didn't look at Jalen or Berrios as guys you could throw into that equation.
You got Hutch.
They see those guys. Well, yeah, that's true too. I mean, So yeah, it's like there's a lot of personnel stuff that just makes no sense. And this is all the way through. This is offense, defense, special teams. I mean, Frank Ross had some weird excuse for why Jalen Noel wasn't back doing punts.
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, that was a horrible excuse.
Just gobbledygook. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that? We're going to get also to some of the stuff that happened this week because it was weird. The Texans D gets back on track. They're in out again for the first time all day. The offense forced a punt. So Niners last legit shot, but beautiful pick by Lassiter at the goal line to seal this one. Before we have final thoughts, our friends at FanDuel have the Broncos favored by 1.5 over the Texans, and they look pretty strong against the Cowboys. Tom, I'm going to let you take this one first. How does that look to you? You think the Texans have a shot? This is practically a pick 'em, according to the guys at FanDuel.
I'm dying to know what they know because I can't see anybody not taking that number because I'm like, that's I would have thought it would have been like 6 or 7 or something like that. If you're a Broncos fan, you're going, that's too low. I got to have that. For me, maybe they feel like this Texans defense is going to be a whole lot better of a challenge than what that Cowboys defense presented. And that's why the Cowboys, gave up all those points. But I don't know. It's an interesting line. I didn't know it was that close. I'm kind of like sidelined by it. I don't even know what to do with it.
Yeah, that's the first I heard. That's the first I heard of it. That's shocking to me, Robert. I would have figured 3.5 because Texans are at home. Usually get 3 points to the home team. So to Tom's point, I mean, you're looking at about 6.5 there. So I would have figured 3.5 for the Broncos with Texans getting 3.5 at home. 1.5. I mean, that was eye popping to me, Robert. This is the first I've heard of, and that's definitely surprising to me. These lines move based off what the public does, so I wouldn't be surprised if that does move up to between 2.5, 3.5 before kickoff on Sunday. Because I think, to Tom's point, a lot of people, if they see that right now, they're going and laying money on Denver. Listen, the offensive line. Kudos to the Texans. Kudos for what they did against the 4-man fronts. Offensive line didn't go from poor to great in 1 week, especially after they struggled so bad after a bye week, and they had every reason in the world to be improved. No, the 49ers could not create any type of pressure. If you go and look at every single rep where they bring 4 men, Stroud had all day. He had an NBA shot clock in that pocket. I mean, instead of talking about 3 seconds to get it out, he's got 24 seconds to get his shot off. That's how bad it was. And so anytime they bring four, there was not a chance they were getting pressure. So kudos to the Texans for doing that, but they weren't doing it against top elite guys. Now you go from, subpar guys as far as replacement level players to the best in the business right there. I mean, if you want to say the Broncos and the Texans, they're both in that conversation. So imagine now you go from what you just saw to Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter coming after this offensive line. I think that kind of paints a picture of what the Texans will be up against. I thought the Texans could beat the Seahawks, thought they should beat the Seahawks. I thought they could beat the 49ers. You don't know what this team's going to do. The NFL's week to week this year. But if I had to make a prediction here, this is the one game I said, you want to beat Seattle, you want to beat San Francisco, because that Denver defense is a nightmare matchup for this offense. And I don't have high hopes for Houston in this. I wish I could tell the fans better, but I had higher hopes for the Texans winning Seattle and San Francisco. And this being that one game in the second quarter of the season, a 4-game patch that they probably lose, because I think they beat Jacksonville at home the following week. But if they can win this game against Denver and then you get Jacksonville, you're talking about going back above 500 at 5-4. You're in the playoff hunt. You're probably not going to win the division. Indy's too far out. The schedule's been way too soft this year. But you're in the playoff hunt if you can win this Denver game, because I think you beat Jacksonville.
Yeah, and they got the Titans again coming up too. So they got a chance to make a run if they can beat Denver. I said I wanted to come back to the Texans run game. And the reason I want to come back to it is this. Number one, Kaylee came out this week and said, look, I needed to run the ball more. And I agree with him, because against Seattle, I think, you have a couple of bad run plays early in the game and you go away from it. You can't do that. Not against a Seattle team that's ready to tee off on you. That's number one. And that's a rookie offensive coordinator that's panicking a little bit because, it's not going well early in the game. It's a Monday night game. You're like, I got to throw the ball. But the second reason that I'm just looking at this big picture wise, because there was a lot of interesting stuff this week, but the thing that stood out for me most, Jayson, was a short audio clip. I don't know if you caught this short audio clip from the Seahawks game where a sideline Seahawks player was heard saying that
Ernest Jones.
Laken Tomlinson was tipping the Texans run or pass by his stance. He played most of the left guard snaps, Tomlinson did, Jayson. I mean, what do you think about that? Because that totally changes the whole way I think about that entire Seattle game and where the Texans run. Because I think the run offense has become pretty darn good with Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. But if they knew what was going on, I mean, that's a big freaking deal.
Well, yeah, and also they're familiar with him from him playing in Seattle. So, I mean, a lot of those tendencies, I don't think it's just in season they're picking up from Laken. They know him from playing against them in practice and seeing them and different things like that. But I think it's definitely also still showing. And I think that also points to another question you have as far as the Texans, self-scouting. Every team always talks about self-scouting and all that, but truly, how much are the Texans doing it? Because if you're self-scouting up on your own, like a poker player sitting at the table, if somebody else sitting across from you can sit there and see that you pull on your ear every time you're bluffing, you know what I mean? Then when you go back and watch your film and you self-scout, you're definitely going to see that as well. The thing that stuck out to me that was even more concerning, we saw the play at the end of the game where DeMarcus Lawrence, everybody thought he was offside. He wasn't offside. He timed up the jump, and they switching the look pre-snap, at the snap, and post-snap, and they were timing it all off of Ed Ingram looking back at Stroud, tapping Jake Andrews on the legs and telling him when to snap, and then every time Texans would snap, a second later. There was no hard count. There was no like, all right, tap and then give them 2-3 so they can't time it up. It was a cheat code. And it was the easiest cheat code in the world. There's no way they're self-scouting if you go into a game and let the defense know we're snapping the ball in 1 second. And DeMarcus Lawrence, he timed it up perfect. And the Will Anderson Jr., the other one, when he was coming off the right side in this game, not the earlier one in the game, but where he was at left end, but where he was at right end, I watched that play probably 10 times because within 1,000th of a second, he either timed that perfectly or was 1,000th of a second, slowed it down frame by frame. And you know what San Francisco did right before he timed that jump? Right guard taps the center on the left leg. They don't give a hard count or a 2 count. Center drops his head and back up, and he times it up perfectly. I was offsides. If he was, it was by 1,000th of a second.
Tom, have you ever seen Stroud do a hard count? I don't even remember Stroud doing a hard count in 3 years. And that's the thing that I have with the Texans is I watch them and I go, man, why aren't we mixing this up? Why does it always feel like I know when the Texans are going to snap the ball, and it always comes down to the final 10 seconds. There's never, rarely, I mean, it takes till they have to, until like it's a 2-minute drive to speed it up. And last week, I mean, I don't remember us talking too much about it, but, right before the 2-minute warning, they were just lollygagging around and they were asked about it this week. And again, just like the Frank Ross, it was a terrible answer from Kaylee about, why they were just so slow in that situation. I don't get it. Like, why are we the one team that can't figure this out no matter who the offensive coordinator is?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with trying to keep it simple for the offensive line. Like, you heard them so many times last year, and they false started a lot because it was like communication, details, this and that. So I can't imagine they're trying to get too exotic with those guys when they're having a hard time with the basic 2 count or whatever. So I really feel like that's why you're seeing them try to simplify as much as they can. It doesn't necessarily help the O-line, but it's like, look, it's either that or a penalty. You're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place there. Again, you go back to, okay, new offense, new coordinator. You kind of hate to beat that dead horse, but this is a product of that. As things get more comfortable, as guys get more familiar with chemistry, the dude next to him, this and that, they'll be able to get into something maybe more exotic. I'm assuming that's what it is. Obviously, we haven't heard anything that speaks to that. They're not going to tell us.
Yeah, with Tomlinson and, Ingram and Titus, those guys have been around for a while. I mean, if are we just doing this for Jake Andrews and, if Drew Scruggs is in the game or Ursery, I don't know. Just to me, this tells me that if that's the case, then we don't have the smartest offensive line. I mean, the offensive line guys are usually, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't they considered like some of the smartest guys on most NFL teams?
Yeah, they are. They are typically, when you look at scores and everything else, they're typically pretty smart guys there. So, no, that's an excellent point from you. Like you mentioned, you got so many veteran guys there. I know you have Ursery up there and you do have Jake Andrews, but like you said, with those vet guys up there, you can't make it that simple. And it keeps going back to self-scouting for me, that if you've tipping your hand this much, you're setting up your running game to fail, you're setting up your passing game to fail. And if the Lakin thing's true as well, like where side of Seattle that's picking up on you tipping your hand as well. There's so many multiple keys that you're set up to fail. This is a game of inches. Any type of advantage. Any type of advantage tilts that scale just a little bit the other way, especially when almost every game or one-score games.
Yeah, I'm going to get back to the O-line in just a second, but I also want to hit on one other strange little thing that happened this week. Nico said the corners were supposed to have more press coverage on Smith-Njigba last week. Stingley was asked about it, but said he would never go against the game plan. Later in the week, Tom, on Richard Sherman's podcast, Stingley says DeMeco is one of the great coaches in the league. So, there's no beef between those two guys, but the miscommunication is a deal because, ESPN's DJ Bieniemy said the players aren't happy because DeMeco says one thing to them, and then he says something else to the media.
It's a really interesting, couple days or whatever. I don't know what you do with it, because you definitely don't want the strife internally, right? You want them all to be on the same page. And I mean, it's tough when you can see D'Amico really struggling with the outside noise, even though in his post game he was like, we don't listen to the noise. I'm like, well, why are we talking about it then? Clearly you're listening to the noise. So I think this is a lot to do with, there's a lot of pressure on these guys to perform. I mean, we're putting it on them. The national media is putting it on them, because this was the team coming into the season that the expectations were high. There was like, okay, they went out and got some great pieces. They already had some great pieces coming off of a season. So now you're starting to have a little struggle, and then you get, some finger pointing, this and that, and everybody's just, the screws are just tight. So I think games like these go a long way to like correcting that. Nobody's wanting to talk about Seattle now. Let's talk about the Niner game, other than us, of course. But I mean, like in that locker room, I think they're trying to get way past that, because you could really see there was like some, hey, y'all are making me look bad. No, hey, y'all are making me look bad. And it's like all these different guys that are worried about, where they are. Yeah, 100%. So I think that, the sooner that they can get on from that and not dwell on that, the better, because I don't think we can fix the Seattle game, again, like what's done is done. And I think that's the way you got to kind of approach that. Those guys talking about, well, we should have been in man, or we should have been in this. I think they should just do a better job of prepping for that game going in, and then we're not talking about it.
Right.
Yeah, Jayson, this is my thing. We talked last week about the Seattle game, and it was a disaster. And if I didn't know better, I would have thought Chauncey Billups bet on Seattle, and he knew what was going to happen, because there was so much weird stuff. Like I said, where were the quarterback sneaks last week? Where was the play action? Where was all the stuff that worked the previous 2 weeks? It all comes back for the 49ers game. I also want to make this point. I've heard Caserio get trashed the last week. Fire Caserio, get him out of here. He's doing a terrible job. You can talk about, well, the offseason didn't go as planned. The Cam Robinson thing, I've made the point. I've said it. They signed Cam Robinson before the draft. Now, you could complain about the fact that they gave him too much money and then they decided to trade him, but you can't expect that Ursary, or a guy that you want as a future left tackle, is going to drop into your lap. And they like the way Ursary looked in the summer. Maybe they were wrong. Ursary's been hit and miss, but he's a rookie. He's figuring it out. But like Nick Caserio has been trashed. And here's the point I wanted to make, Jayson. Look, it's amazing that Caserio looks like he's a genius putting together a defense when he's got a good defensive coach. It looks like he's a freaking genius, because Stingley, Lassiter, Petrie, Bullock. I mean, we could go down the list. Will Anderson. People said, oh, Will Anderson, that was D'Amico's idea or whatever, but he got the trade done. There was a lot of people that didn't think it was a good trade at the time, or a questionable trade, or we don't know, or whatever. They gave up too much. They got it right. He got Danielle Hunter. Everybody would want a Danielle Hunter. He got him. He got him at a pretty darn good value too. He's done a great job putting together the defense, but we got to get rid of Caserio because he's done a terrible job with the offensive talent. But do we know he's done a terrible job? Or is this a matter of, since he's had CJ Stroud, a quarterback that's learning, trying to figure it out the first 3 years, making some mistakes that young quarterbacks make, and he's had a coaching staff with a guy that was halfway out the door as an offensive line guy, a rookie in Bobby Slowick who had never come close to calling plays or been even, I don't know how much he'd even been in the room for all that stuff. Then you bring in a Nick Caley who was a tight end coach or whatever. Like, hey, maybe it's the fact that his coaching is not getting the job done. And I want to throw something else out there. People say, oh, offensive line, they don't have any talent, and you need Pro Bowlers, right? You need all pros at offensive line. I'm going to take you back to 2009. Jayson, you'll remember this. Tom, you'll remember this. The Texans offensive line that year, I'm going to run down some names for you. Second year, Dwayne Brown, who most of the Texans fans wanted cut after year one because he was a joke. He was a mistake as a first-round pick. He was your left tackle, still 3 years away from making his first Pro Bowl. You had Chester Pitts, who was a catastrophe under David Carr. You had Mike Brazel, some journeyman who, whatever. Chris Myers, they traded a 6th-round pick for Chris Myers and Eric Winston. That was their offensive line. They had 4,700 yards with some, journeyman Matt Schaub, slap arm quarterback that wasn't all that good. But thanks to Kubiak, thanks to Alex Gibbs, who was a freaking genius. And there's a guy named Kyle Shanahan that was a pretty good offensive mind in that room as well. Hey, you know what? When you get coaching, the offensive line looks good. Offensive lines are about, correct me if I'm wrong, Jayson, it's about chemistry and coaching more than it usually is about talent, right or wrong?
No, it's 100%. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both too, though. I mean, you do need to have players with talent, but to your point, Alex was like, and for those that don't know, this is like a guru when it comes to offensive line. This guy would be 200 years old and retired, and they were talking out of retirement to come. He was basically Gandalf the Grey at that point. They'd still talk him into coming out of retirement because he could just gel an offensive line together. And I think that's why so many people, present company included, have so much of a problem with the left guard rotation, because it's all about chemistry and having the feel for that guy next to you and being able to build it up. We know the analogy, a chain is only as strong weakest link. That analogy, I swear, was made up for offensive line play. Because if you have one guy that's leaky, the entire chain breaks. Like Red Rover when we were kids. You know what I mean? You have one weak link in there, then that chain, it gets broken. And I used to always say, when talking about zone systems, seeing how we're going back to those days, zones specifically, you definitely have to have that feel and know of what the guy next to you is thinking, what he's doing, along with that mobility as well. And I would call it a fist. You take a fist, you got 5 fingers working together to make your hardest punch, right? Put out your finger, try to punch out. Any finger, put it out and try to punch somebody. There's no impact. It's not going to be successful, and that's an offensive line.
Yeah, I don't get the Nick Caserio hate. Like, here's what I get. I get why people don't like him, because he's like a robot, because he doesn't give you a good answer to questions. He's not warm and fuzzy. I understand that. I want to hate the guy, but at the same time, I'm like, look, this is more about coaching. This is more about a quarterback still trying to figure things out. And Tom, I just, and you know me, Tom, I'm the first guy to jump on somebody. I still got big questions about DeMeco. DeMeco, go beat a good coach for once. Go beat a team that doesn't have everybody on the injured list. I want you to go beat somebody that I think is a good team, because you look at the record the last 2 years. I think Jason's probably got it in his back pocket. He knows what I'm talking about. But you look at the record the last 2 years against good teams, it's terrible. And so, yeah, I'm critical of DeMeco, but you know me, I don't say this lightly. Get off Caserio, because, yeah, he's made some mistakes. GMs, they're going to have hits, they're going to have misses, but I think he's made way more hits. And right now, the Texans defense is number 1 in the NFL. And there's one guy that's in charge of that whole deal, and it's DeMeco Ryans. And well, one guy as a coach, but also one guy as a GM that's put those guys together.
So I love this, because I am not one of those guys that wants at Nick Caserio either. I think him and DeMeco, I think they're a package deal. I think you have that defense because DeMeco said, these are the guys I want. Go get me the groceries, as Bill Parcells used to say, you know what I mean? Or he said he wanted to get them. I'm sorry. But, they went and got him the groceries that he wanted, and he's cooking. I think that defense is elite. Now, I think the offensive side of the ball is the reason that we have that issue, is because I think they're getting whatever's left over to an extent, not too much. I don't want to go and say, well, they're not getting anything, because I don't think that's fair either. To speak to the offensive line, because I know you talk heavily, Jayson, about this rotation. I've been trying to figure it out. I've been trying to rack my brain, because I don't think these guys are stupid. I really think there's a method to the madness. The only thing that I can wrap my head around, the only thing that makes sense to me, Laken Tomlinson is a little long in the tooth. I think he's probably the better of the two in their eyes. I'm not saying in our eyes. I'm saying in their eyes. They think that's the guy. However, I don't think he has the durability and the stamina a la Nico Autry to play a full complement of plays. So I think they're seeing it. They're seeing him wear down, and they're seeing these things happen in game. And that's why we're getting this weird rotation now. Because, okay, if I sprinkle in Juice Scruggs to give that man a blow so he can get his wind and get right, then he's going to come back and he's going to be better for them when, next drive or whatever, next series, however they want to do it. That's the only argument I got for that. And if that works, if that makes it work, I'm okay with it. I get it. You're not going to produce a Juice Scruggs and he's going to be like the answer long-term, but some people might think he's not already. So then it's just like trying to patch this joker together till they get to where they want to go and then address that in the offseason.
Yeah, I think a lot of people with Nick Caserio also have, the issue with all the John Carroll guys. I mean, we're not talking about Alabama. Listen, I'm from Florence, South Carolina originally. I went to South Florence High School. Lenore Sellers, great prospect, he went to South Florence High School. Now, if I was a coach, maybe I'd want to go draft Lenore Sellers. But if I go and draft or bring on 3-4 more people from South Florence High School, I mean, the talent pool is not that deep there. There might be one guy you get from there that has elite type talent. So I think that's a problem a lot of people have, is that the connections and relationship. It's not Nick Saban bringing a lot of Alabama guys, drafting a lot of Alabama guys. It's freaking John Carroll. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, to answer your question, obviously tongue in cheek, Robert, but how Dary's still on the team. I heard a rumor from Eli Manning that Dary dressed up as Chad Powers and went to John Carroll before coming pro. So that's the only thing that I can make sense of it,
Yeah, that's my one bone, is like the Ogunbowales and the Damian Pierce. And I don't know if it's loyalty. I don't know if like there's particular guys that they like on the back of the roster. If D'Amico has some say in this, because they are guys that, maybe aren't going to play as much. But to me, it's like it's an NFL situation where there's always injuries, and you cannot just have a guy on the roster as a good rah-rah guy, as a good locker room guy. I mean, MJ Stewart is one of those guys. He can play, though. That dude plays. And since MJ Stewart's been back there, it's a whole different secondary from CJ Gardner-Johnson. Yeah, he screwed up the CJ Gardner-Johnson. He took a shot. Maybe you disagree with the fact that he threw some extra money at him. So, when they got rid of him, it was going to cost him. But, I mean, it just seems like people are so quick to get on what Caserio did wrong and then easily forget what he did right. And the fact that, this is, to me, I keep hearing people keep saying this, and I just can't disagree with them more. People keep saying, oh, it's Caserio that's hiring the offensive coordinators. It's Caserio that's hiring the offensive line coach. Look, I keep saying this, if you watched the darn press conference after D'Amico got hired, it was a hostage video for Nick Caserio. Like somebody had a gun to his head and said, you're going to say this. And, D'Amico is our guy. I don't care what you think. So D'Amico was hired by Cal McNair. He knew the fan base wanted D'Amico. He knew that was the guy that everybody wanted. He was the hot name. So D'Amico got the job. And you know what D'Amico is not going to do? Listen to Nick Caserio instead of Cal McNair. He's going to make his own decisions on who's his guys, because if he doesn't, then he's getting fired. And here's the other part. Bobby Slowick, what's the connection? What's the Nick Caserio connection? Wait a second. I just remembered. Didn't D'Amico and Bobby Slowick and the 49ers? And, it was Nick Caserio that said, hey, I want this Bobby Slowick, this guy from the 49ers who I have no connection. Like, what are you talking about? This is insanity that D'Amico doesn't have the say here and who his coaching staff is. D'Amico is not dumb. He's not going to get fired over guys that Nick Caserio hired. So forget about that. If you want to get on Caserio because of the offensive line draft picks, go ahead. Like, he tried. They were guys that were well thought of around the draft gurus, probably around a lot of the people. It didn't work out. Like, those guys didn't work out. I get it. But at the same time, like, there is a lot of stuff that he's done that's been pretty on point. And he's done a lot of good stuff, as far as the contract, Stingley's contract is a great, Nico's contract is a great contract. Daniil's contract is a great he has done a great job, and all these things you guys don't care about out there, fans, but it matters as far as team building. And I didn't think I'd have to get on a stupid soapbox for the robot, Nick Caserio, but apparently I do, because everybody seems to have missed it. So if the three people that are out there listening to this, go send this to your friends and say, look, this guy makes some pretty good points about Nick Caserio. The guy's not a total clown. And, I had to get that off my chest. Last thoughts for you, Jayson. Brandon, I want to throw this out there because I forgot to. Stingley and Bullock, he says, gave up TDs in back-to-back weeks, trying to get picks instead of PDs. Just thoughts on anything, but also like Stingley not having his best year right now, is he?
I know he dealt with that. I Bleav it was the oblique or hip injury in the Rams game. He was working through that. I know he had the bye week to get healthy. Still don't know if he's 100%. With all the hubbub last week about what he's being asked to play and what he isn't being asked to play, it just continues to make me a little bit more cautious as far as over criticizing with him, because this guy's such an elite cornerback. I love his talent. I love his ability. The only question I had for him coming out of college is he going to stay healthy? And as far as that, I mean, he's a playmaker. He reminds me of Champ Bailey. And so I wouldn't panic on Derek Stingley, even if he struggles the rest of the year or anything like that. I wouldn't have any issue with them. As far as my last thoughts, 49ers are hurting on defense. Christian Harris is sitting on the bench, basically. Darrell's, oh my gosh, how am I forgetting his name?
Darrell Taylor.
Yeah, thank you. Darrell Taylor is not even being active for games. They need pass rush. They lost Fred Warner at linebacker. Send them both those guys. Whatever you got to do. They've been willing to trade in the past. The trade deadline's 2 days after you play the Broncos. I wouldn't have traded those guys to the 49ers before this game. You don't help somebody out before you face them. But at this point, while they're still in San Francisco, you're talking face-to-face. You have that warm and cozy relationship. Try to get those picks, because like you said, drafting, I know fans will only remember your misses, but drafting is like throwing darts at a dartboard. You're going to miss a lot. You're going to hit some. And so the more picks you can have, the better chances you have hitting at the right picks. So Dameon Pierce, the guy showed, I thought it was smart to put him out there because Jalen Noel was going to play a heavier role as a wide receiver. I was smart as put him out there as a kick returner. Dameon Pierce, fresh legs. Even if a team don't think he's the best running back, he's on an expiring rookie contract. He's not going to cost you a lot. He can give you depth at the running back position. He can be one of your either first or second kick returner on your return team there. Dameon Pierce, Christian Harris, Darrell Taylor, those guys like that, especially to the 49ers, Darrell Taylor and Christian Harris. I think they need to have those conversations before they, before San Francisco goes back.
How about a left guard, Tom? We could use one of those too. Does San Fran have a left guard we can use, or a tight end we can use? Because darn it, we sure could use those two positions.
I've been banging the drum. If the Texans want to make a move, if they want to go out and add to this team, I think you should try to find all the offensive line help you can. I mean, it's better to have too much than not enough. We've seen it over and over again. The trenches, they get banged up, beat up. I mean, I don't even want to think about what the Texans would have to do if any of their tackles got hurt right now, because we don't talk about them. Even when they have a penalty here or there, I feel like those guys are doing really well. Ursary, I feel like, we bring him up, but it's like you feel like the progression is there. So we don't talk about him,
We'll be mentioning them next week.
Maybe. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But yeah, if the Texans are going to go make a move, for me, a guard, a center, I think while Andrews has been serviceable, you've seen it at times where he's been beat up a little bit. I would love to see that.
Also, just worth mentioning, because you said Ursary, did Nick Caserio look pretty good today with Xavier Hutchinson? Did he look pretty good today with Jalen Noel? Jaden Higgins caught a touchdown, a couple of touchdowns already this year. Woody Marks. Anybody heard of him? 3rd round pick, not bad. Draft's looking pretty decent. Ursary, still on the clock with him, but some of the other guys, they're coming on a little bit. It's the Bullpen podcast, Tom. It's at Third Coast Tom. If you want to follow him, Jayson at Jayson Braddock and drroto.com, right, Jayson?
That's correct. Yeah, you got it, guys. I always appreciate y'all along with y'all. It's always better after a win. The fans aren't really at each other's neck, and the media and the coaches aren't shooting shots at each other as well. It's a little bit more enjoyable of a week.
Absolutely. God, please keep the winning coming. That makes my life a hell of a lot more fun. Thanks for joining us on the Houston Sports Talk postgame show, our live Texans postgame show presented by FanDuel. Go check out FanDuel.com. Maybe you need to get on the Broncos if you agree with Tom and Jayson on that. Thanks again, guys, for the insight. Go Texans.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.